To Dust. Written by Kristen Mullings. 2025 copyright. Chapter 7, Salt and Cinders. The smell of burnt marrow clings to my clothes. Even after we've left the village behind, I can still taste it, iron and ash and something deeper, sour with old magic. A tether of sorts, as if Myth wants me to follow her. Wants me to see what she's become. Kael walks ahead of me, his broad form shadowed by the trees. His coat flutters slightly with each step, the charred tips of his horns glinting faintly under the canopy's dying light. We haven't spoken in hours. The silence between us now is heavier than it was before, weighted not with fear or awkwardness, but understanding. What we saw back there was a message. A signature scorched into the earth. And if I don't stop her soon, Myth won't just destroy the circle. She'll burn through the entire realm. She's heading northeast, Kael finally says, breaking the silence. How do you know? He pauses and tilts his head. Because I can hear the screams. I step closer to him. You can hear. He doesn't answer right away. Just lifts a hand and points. At first, I hear nothing. Then, soft as mist, wailing. Low. Distorted. Like a child sobbing underwater. What is that? I ask. Kael's voice is grim. Pain made sentient. It's Myth's trail. Whatever spell she used in that village, it didn't just kill. It collected. Collected what? Souls. I stagger back a step, bile rising in my throat. She's building a soul ward. He nods. A powerful one. For a ritual. Probably at the well. The well of Vaelra. My blood chills at the thought. It's the last place anyone should be channeling souls. A relic site, older than the oldest magic, sealed off for centuries. I remember studying it in Arcanum texts. Its depth was said to have no bottom. Just a spiral of forgotten power and memory, sealed beneath runes and time. And if Myth breaks it open with a soul ward, she'll tear the veil itself, I whisper. Kael turns to me, eyes burning. We can't let her reach it. We push on. By dusk, we make it to the forest's edge, where the trees thin and the land flattens into black marsh. The sky is violet, bruised and pulsing. Magic is thick in the air, sticky against my skin. Kael gestures toward a small outpost up ahead, an old observatory, half swallowed by vines and swamp moss. We'll rest there. Regroup before the final stretch. Inside, the place is mostly intact. Dust clings to every surface, but the runes carved into the walls still glow faintly. A protective ward, ancient and barely alive. I collapse into a corner, bones aching. Kael starts a fire in the hearth with a flick of his fingers. No kindling. No spark stones. Just pure will. His magic always has a different texture than mine. Where mine flickers and coils like wild flame, his comes in sharp bursts, controlled, but brutal. As the fire catches, warmth fills the space, and I exhale. We sit across from each other in the orange light. I can feel the tension building again. Something unspoken pressing between us. You shouldn't come with me to the well, I say finally. His brow furrows. What? I mean it, Kael. Myth's getting stronger. The closer we get, the more dangerous she'll be. And if she's working with something from your realm. I am from that realm. Exactly, I snap. If it comes to choosing sides. His voice is low but firm. Don't finish that sentence. I stare at him. His gaze is steady. Not angry. Just resolute. I already chose a side, Seren. I chose yours. Again and again. Or do you not remember, Who dragged you from the hollow glen? Who fought through cursed flame for you? My throat tightens. I do. Then stop trying to push me away. He leans forward, firelight dancing across his sharp cheekbones. I know you think this is your burden alone. That you have to make up for what happened. For Maeth. But it isn't all on you. I was the one who walked away from her. I was her sister. Her anchor. And when she needed me, I turned my back. Kael's voice softens. You were a child. You weren't meant to carry her madness. But I did anyway. We sit in silence, just breathing. Finally, he says, tell me what really happened. I stare into the fire. The flames twist, showing me flashes. Fragments. The night it happened. She killed our mentor, I whisper. Arden. Kael blinks. The High Mage. I nod. He tried to bind her. Said her power was growing unstable. Said she needed to be sealed until her mind cleared. I press my nails into my palm, grounding myself. But she didn't want to be saved. She lashed out. Burned the entire tower from the inside. I watched her do it. Watched her smile while the walls melted. Kael doesn't interrupt. I tried to stop her. I tried. But she looked at me like I was a stranger. Like I was just another threat. I look up at him, tears stinging the backs of my eyes. That's the last time I saw her. Until the glen. Kael shifts beside me, then, slowly, he reaches for my hand. At first, I stiffen. But I don't pull away. His fingers are rough, calloused, but warm. I don't know what's waiting for us at the well, he says. But whatever it is, you won't face it alone. A beat. You have me. I breathe in slowly. Let the words settle. You're right, I murmur. I've spent so long trying to protect everyone else. I forgot what it feels like to be protected. We sit like that for a while, hand in hand, fire crackling. A storm begins to whisper outside, wind brushing the windows like a warning. But inside this broken observatory, we are still. Something shifts between us. Not sudden. Not fierce. But quiet. Like the first glow before dawn. When sleep takes me, it comes with no vision. Just the warmth of his hand still in mine. And for the first time in a long while, I believe we might actually win. Chapter 8, The Ashen Pact. We leave the observatory before sunrise, our boots still wet from the marsh's sorrowful breath. The trees grow twisted here, gnarled limbs clawing at the sky, bark streaked with black resin that pulses faintly like veins beneath skin. The deeper we go, the louder the whispers become. They call my name now. Not Maeth's. Mine. Seren. Seren. She waits. She remembers. I try not to listen. Try to focus on Kael, who walks beside me, ever silent, ever steady. The blade on his back hums with demonic energy, hungry for release. We cross a ravine bridged by roots, descend into a hollow glade where no sunlight touches, and finally reach the outer edge of the Vale's perimeter. The barrier is still intact. Or so it seems. Carved into the ground in a wide circle are ancient runes, glowing faint gold, the last defense around the well of Vaelra. But several sigils have been bled out, smeared with blackened ichor that smells like burnt salt and rot. She broke the seal, I whisper. Kael crouches near one of the ruptured glyphs. No. She bargained with it. I look at him, confused. What do you mean? He stands slowly. His jaw tightens. This wasn't broken by force. The well's guardians wouldn't allow that. She offered something to get in. I feel it then, a ripple beneath my feet. A surge of ancient, sentient power. The well is awake. And it is feeding. We don't speak again, as we enter the perimeter. The ground shifts beneath us, the air growing heavier with each step. Magic here is dense and erratic. Like walking through a living fog. Then we see it. The well. A jagged stone mouth in the center of a sunken basin, ringed with obsidian shards and glowing red etchings that pulse like a heartbeat. Wisps of soul light swirl above it, dozens, maybe hundreds, trapped like moths in a jar. And there, standing at its edge, arms lifted high, is Myeth. Her silhouette is wreathed in shadow flame. Her hair, once raven black like mine, now burns with embers. Her skin is pale ash. And her eyes. They are not hers anymore. They glow with hollow gold, streaked through with demonic red. She is chanting. The words echo in my bones, low, guttural incantations from a dead dialect of the Veil tongue. She is opening the gate. I raise my hand to cast. We have to stop her. But Kael grips my wrist. Hard. Wait. My heart thunders. Wait. She's summoning gods know what. She's not alone. From the shadows near the well, a second figure steps out. My breath freezes. Arden. The High Mage. Dead. Burned. Lost to the flames the night Myeth turned. And yet there he stands, robes intact, silver beard gleaming under the twisted sky. Impossible, I breathe. He died. I saw. He did, Kael says darkly. Which means what you're seeing is either a revenant, or a projection bound by oath. As if hearing us, Arden turns his head. His eyes settle on me. And for a flicker of a second, I see recognition. Pain. Then it's gone, replaced by cold resolve. You came, he calls out. As she said you would. Kael steps in front of me, hand on his blade. What are you? Arden smiles faintly. A ghost. A prisoner. A price she paid. Myeth stops her chanting. Her head turns slowly toward me. Seren. I freeze. Her voice is layered now. Hers and something else. Deeper. Older. Malevolent. She descends from the well's edge and approaches, each step crackling with residual magic. The air around her vibrates like a fevered dream. You shouldn't have come. You knew I would, I say. You wanted me to. She tilts her head, flame-red hair spilling over her shoulder. I wanted you to see. To understand what I've become. You've become a monster. Myeth doesn't flinch. No, little sister. I've become free. She lifts her hand, and the souls above the well shimmer, twisting around her wrist like a crown. Free of the circle's lies. Of the chains they wrapped around us since birth. You remember, don't you? The tests. The torment. The way they made us tear ourselves apart for power. They trained us to protect the realms, I snap. They trained us to be weapons. You just never saw it. But I did. And now. Her eyes blaze. Now I'm building something new. Kael steps forward. You're opening a conduit to the lower planes. You know what will happen if you do that. Myeth's smile twists. Of course I do. That's why I offered a soul in trade. She gestures toward Arden. His was just the first. I raise my hand again. I won't let you do this. Myeth narrows her eyes. You'd kill me. Your own blood. If it saves this realm, yes. She laughs. Cold. Broken. Then let's see if you can. Everything erupts. Kael lunges forward, blade singing. I release a storm of spectral flame toward Ma'eth, who counterstrikes with a twisting arc of bone fire. Arden raises a shield to protect her, deflecting Kael's strike in a flash of mirrored runes. We scatter. The basin becomes a battlefield. Craters form from spells, black earth rising and splitting. Kael duels Arden, steel clashing against magic again and again, while Ma'eth and I spiral in a dance of twin flames. You were always the favorite, she spits, sending a shockwave through the ground. Always the obedient one. You were the stronger one. I cry, deflecting her assault. You were the one I looked up to. She freezes for a moment, just a moment, and in that hesitation, I strike. My fire hits her shoulder, knocking her back. Kael screams. I turn. And freeze. Arden has his blade. It's not Kael's. It's mine, wrenched from the ground, pressed to Kael's throat. But the eyes behind the blade, they aren't Arden's anymore. They are Ma'eth's. Too slow, Seren, she murmurs behind me, and I spin. She's behind me. Illusion. She projected herself twice. A soul doubling. Ancient and forbidden. My own blade, now turned against us. Kael meets my eyes. Run. No. Ma'eth lifts her hands. You always had a weakness for broken things, sister. Let's see if you'll break too. She plunges my sword down. A blinding flash. A detonation of light. But not from me. From Kael. A burst of pure hellfire, explosive and raw, tears through the basin. The well shrieks in response. Souls scatter. Arden's form disintegrates, and Ma'eth screams, a sound like a dying star. I am thrown backward. My head cracks against stone. Darkness swells. When I wake, Kael is on his knees, blood dripping from his lips. His horns are cracked. One eye burns gold, overtaken by the demon flame. Kael. He looks up at me, teeth clenched. I made a deal, he chokes. To survive. To keep you alive. What did you do? I whisper, crawling toward him. I called my father. My stomach drops. You swore you never would. I didn't plan to, he groans. But to break her hold, to stop her. I needed more power. Ma'eth is gone. The well hums, disturbed but sealed, for now. Kael collapses into my arms, unconscious, still burning from the inside out. And above us, the sky begins to split. Chapter 9, When the Realms Bleed. Kael didn't wake for 2 days. The first night, I thought he might die. His skin flickered between human and something else, blackened veins pulsing beneath the surface, demonic sigils slithering along his throat like ink drawn by unseen hands. His breath was shallow, his body cold despite the fever that burned from within. I kept my hands on him anyway. Magic flowed from me into him in soft pulses, threads of warding, protection, and every bit of healing I could remember from the old texts. Even when my fingers bled from overuse, even when my eyes grew too heavy to stay open, I didn't stop. I couldn't lose him. Not after what he gave up. Not after the way he looked at me before the pact bound him tighter to the abyss. The morning of the 3rd day, he stirred. Just a twitch at first. Then a shudder that rippled through him like a storm breaking across still water. His lips parted, and a rasp dragged up his throat. Seren. I swallowed the lump rising in mine. I'm here. His eyes fluttered open. One still held that deep storm grey I knew too well. But the other, his right, glowed with that terrible, burning gold. No longer merely demonic. Now it burned with the mark of dominion. A pact completed. A soul mortgaged. "Tell me," I whispered, brushing damp hair from his brow. "What did you give him?" Kael's breath trembled. "A piece of myself." "What piece?" His jaw clenched. "My name. My true name." The world stilled. In the demon realms, names hold power. True names even more so. To surrender your name is to surrender yourself, to become a weapon, a tool, a thing to be used. "You said you'd never." "I had no choice," he said, voice hoarse. "It was her or the world. I made my choice." He looked away then. Ashamed. Distant. And that scared me more than anything. He wasn't Kael anymore. Not fully. The days that followed blurred. The forest around the Well of Vaelra grew strange, trees leaning in ways they shouldn't, light filtering through branches at unnatural angles, birds repeating the same chirps like a broken hymn. Time itself had fractured. The well's disturbance hadn't just stirred old magic. It had torn through the seams that separated the realms. It began with the sky. On the seventh day, the stars bled. I stood at the edge of the hollow where we'd made camp, Kael asleep behind me, and watched as streaks of red light carved through the heavens. Not shooting stars, these bled across the sky like torn veins, dripping streaks of molten ether into the clouds below. Some of them didn't fade. Some of them moved, and not in straight lines. They writhed. Twisted. Observed. I knew then the breach had gone too deep. Kael confirmed it when he rose, finally strong enough to walk. He stood beside me in silence for a long time before speaking. "It's starting." "What is?" "The realms shift. When the borders between worlds dissolve. When what lies beneath and beyond begins to press into ours." I turned to him. "How long until it tears completely?" He didn't answer. Just looked at the bleeding sky and said, "Soon." We left the forest by dusk. There was no other choice. Staying near the well meant being pulled further into its web. It had become a beacon now, feeding off the pact, off Myth's lingering echo, off the souls it had already consumed. I knew we weren't safe anywhere else, but the farther we got, the more I hoped we could find answers. Or at least others who might have survived what was coming. We passed ruins swallowed by thorns. Temples once belonging to the Circle, now little more than bones in the earth. The spells that had held them together were unraveling, their glyphs flickering and fading like dying fireflies. The world was coming undone. And every step we took felt like walking across a tapestry being torn beneath our feet. By the third day of travel, we reached the hollow path, a once sacred road that connected the southern enclaves to the flame cities beyond the ridge. Except the road was no longer there. Instead, a fracture. A canyon carved not by nature, but by something older. Something that split through time and space like a knife. It pulsed faintly, humming in a rhythm that didn't match this realm's heartbeat. Kael crouched at the edge and touched the broken stone. "It's happening faster than I thought. Can it be stopped?" I asked. He didn't look up. "Not without sealing the breach. And to do that." He stood slowly, eyes meeting mine. "We need the source." I swallowed hard. "The pact." He nodded. "And the soul who cast it." "Myth." But she was gone. Burned in the blast. Or so I thought, until the dream started. They began subtly. A whisper in my ear as I slept, a flicker of her silhouette behind my eyes. Then came the visions. She stood in a place I didn't know, black sand, ash-blown wind, and a horizon split by fire. "Come find me, Seren," she said in one. In another, I'm not dead. Not yet. But I will be. And when I am, he'll take my place. I always woke sweating. Heart racing. Fingers twitching with uncontrolled magic. And Kael, he dreamed too. Except his weren't dreams. They were memories. But not his own. Each night, his mind wandered further into the abyss. He would wake with names on his lips, demon princes long dead, curses that turned the tongue to ash, fragments of languages spoken before mortals had breath. He was changing. I could feel it in the way he looked at me, still full of care, still him, but touched by something colder, darker. A shadow in his soul that hadn't been there before. And still, I stayed. Because I loved him. Because despite the pact, despite the bleeding sky, despite everything unraveling, I still loved him. And maybe that was madness. But love often is. It was on the 9th day that we found the gate. Not the well. Not another fracture. A gate. It stood alone in a burnt-out field, surrounded by the remains of once living things. No walls. No keep. Just a door made of bone and black iron, standing upright in the dirt. It pulsed with the same rhythm as the fractures. As the well. Kael stopped walking the moment he saw it. That's not from here, he murmured. I nodded slowly. Can we destroy it? We can try. He drew his blade, and I summoned fire to my palms. Together, we advanced. But the moment we reached the gate, it opened. No handle. No sound. Just a slow, yawning pool of reality as the door creaked inward and revealed what lay beyond. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't a place. It was a void. A corridor of floating stone paths spiraling through endless darkness. Creatures moved in the distance, massive, amorphous shapes that shouldn't exist. Stars hung like fruit above bottomless pits. And somewhere far, far inside, I felt her. Maeth. Alive. Changed. Calling. Kael grabbed my wrist. We go in together. I nodded. And we stepped through. The moment we crossed, the air changed. Heavier. Hotter. Every breath burned. My magic trembled, unstable in this place. Kael's blade flickered with hellfire, alive with hunger. We walked the floating paths in silence, guided by instinct and the pull of Maeth's soul. Until we found her. She stood atop a high dais of bone and glass, surrounded by thorns that whispered and moved like serpents. She was no longer human. No longer my sister. She had become vessel. A conduit for the Ancient One behind the pact, a forgotten prince of ruin, sealed before time, now using Maeth's body to step through into this world. And when she turned to face us, I no longer saw hatred. I saw pity. You shouldn't have come, she said. And then the sky tore in two.